No. We played different incarnations of God, I think. Mine was more philosophical, and his was more fun. For me, it was a huge undertaking, and I actually had to try to figure out a way into the character. And so what I did was basically boil it down to the relationship between Mac and Papa, and it felt very parental to me. So I basically did the work as if I were his foster mom who failed him, and then it was about building those bridges so that he could trust me again. No, I read the book. I was a fan of the book. I read it independently of the film. Actually, I read it a few years prior, so I knew about it, and like the multitude of fans, I was one of them. So when it was brought to me that I was going to be meeting with Gil Netter about the role, I went in there and told him why I should play the role. Absolutely, I wouldn't be doing a movie if I didn't believe in the messages of it. Absolutely. Well, I think we all face challenges, and I think agnostics can approach this film and learn from it as well. You realize that we all face challenges, and Mac has a huge challenge that he's facing, the loss of a child. Now, I'm not a parent, but my friends and family that are, their nightmare is to lose a child. And so you have this man who suffers this tremendous loss, and he had such a tumultuous childhood, and then he loses a child, and so he loses faith, and loses faith in himself. He loses faith in God. He loses, and by doing that, he basically becomes paralyzed in his own life and shuts down, and so his family also suffers from that. His daughter also shuts down. So it's about learning to forgive yourself, and also learning if you are a person who's ever questioned God. It's also a way to be able to forgive God, and so I don't think you necessarily have to be a religious person to understand the message about grief and guilt being a paralytic, and if you don't correct that course, that you will stay in a state of distress and unable to grow. And I think that's something that anybody can identify with. Oh, it was wonderful working with Sam. He was a brand new father when we were doing this. I think the baby was only about 6 to 8 weeks old. It was tiny, Rocky. It was tiny. And he, being so young, he was exhausted because, he wasn't really on a sleep schedule. And he was very vulnerable, which is what the character had to be. So, I just remember him, whenever the baby came to set, I'm like, I've got to hold your baby, Sam, I'm sorry. And he would let me. They would let me hold the baby, and he was a sweetheart, and very open to finding the truth in the scenes. And that's what you want with a scene partner, a person who's ready to go everywhere to get to the truth. Well, Stuart is a great collaborator, and we didn't have a lot of rehearsal time because we were all coming from different sets and at different periods. So no, there wasn't a lot of rehearsal time prior to shooting. But while we were there, we took our time and worked on the scenes that required it. Mm-hmm. But I felt like he was very collaborative and allowed us to find our footing in the scene. Well, I'm very glad that they cast an Israeli to play Jesus. And the thing about Aviv is that he has this beautiful personality. And if you believe that Jesus is the light of the world, well, Aviv is definitely the man you want to play him, because he has just this everyman light. And when you're around him, he just fills the room with just joy. And he's devout, just a beautiful, beautiful person. I'm glad that I got to meet him and work together, and he was a lot of fun to work with. He and Sumaray. Well, to have a crush on Jesus. Okay, so we all Well, it's funny because I saw Tim at the Oscars right before it was announced that he was going to be doing the Shack. And when I heard that he was doing it, I just fantasized, we're going to, after we wrap, we're going to just sit around by the fire and just and then it dawned on me, he is never at the Shack. We are never going to hang out. So, that kind of bummed me out, but I'm so glad that he's so amazing in the movie. He has this energy, this grounding, beautiful, energy. And, I mean, he and Faith wrote an amazing song for the soundtrack. So it's a gift to have Tim. I love music, and I love that so many artists saw the value of writing songs for the soundtrack. It's an amazing soundtrack. So I'm gonna say right now I'm definitely into the soundtrack for the film. Well, I bought mine. I saw that Tim had, because I've been heavily promoting Hidden Figures, and so I turned the corner on February 1st to start with this one. And so just catching up with everybody, and I saw that Tim had posted a trailer, and I heard that song, and I immediately bought the soundtrack early, and there were 3 songs that they made available, when you pre-order the soundtrack. But on Thursday, I saw the film, the finished product, and I was given the soundtrack. So I'm always going to support the artist first, because I understand that we don't work for free. But I was also happy to get the whole soundtrack so that I can hear it before before the movie comes out. I respond to material. I'm also playing a tiny role in Gifted, but it's the story that matters to me about an unconventional family. So the common denominator in all of those projects that you listed were the fact that they resonated with me on a deep emotional level. I thought it was important to play Dorothy Vaughan because the fact that we know about John Glenn, but we don't know anything about Katherine Johnson's contributions, and that it's not taught in history as well as the missions of the NASA missions. I felt it was about time that story was told. I was excited to be a part of it because my best friend was a writer-director, and his best friend wrote the book, and one of our dear friends was a producer. So that was our journey that we began together. But she was also a dynamic character. It's wonderful. African American woman.
Right.
Denzel and so many others before me, males. But it feels great. I'm excited because it'll be my 5-year anniversary with Oscar on February 26th, exactly that date that the awards are happening. And the fact that I'm being recognized on behalf of a woman who wasn't recognized in her career. It's humbling, and I'm excited to be there for Dorothy and Mary and Catherine. I am not one of those people that believed in the Oscar so white hashtag in that way, because when you say diversity and then people only refer to black people, then you're only seeing 2 representations. There are Asians, there are Latinas, there are gender issues, there are people with disabilities, people with all shapes and sizes. To me, that's what diversity means. So, am I excited that there are more black people? Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy that there are more films made that warranted the Academy's attention. But to me, the problem didn't begin with the Oscars. That's the very end of a season. To me, it begins with how you greenlight movies and how those movies, how diverse those movies are in their casting. So we could have a long conversation about diversity, but please don't. I get so upset when people do their little sound bites, and it's like, Octavia's happy that they're, it's like, but there are many more people that want to see themselves represented, and that's the problem. But when I was at the Oscar luncheon, it definitely was a lot more diverse. I mean, you see the people who are in different categories, the tech categories. It's definitely more diverse. But I'd love to see some more females represented in the cinematography. I'd love to see more females represented in directing. I'd love to see more females represented in producing. There's only one female writer, and she happened to be the co-writer of my film. So there's a lot of underrepresentation. But what I'm excited about is the Academy has continued to make strides, and not as a result of last year or a reaction to last year. They've been making these strides the whole time. And I don't believe in diminishing anyone's achievement. For anyone to look at last year's nominees and say to any nominee, congratulations on your nomination, but it's an affront because it's hard to get those nominations. Start with the people who greenlight movies. Start with them. Mandy Walker, and then I can't remember the woman's name who shot Fences, but it was beautiful. But listen, strides are being made. More women are, they're taking on different roles and putting more work out there, and we just need to make sure that we're inclusion based on merit, and I think it's warranted.